In a world of Johnnies, Timmies, and Spikes, we must all arrive at the win condition.
Talk him out of his insanity? Yeah, good luck, buddy.
I mean, it's one of the happiest endings you can get in the Magic multiverse.
You can have one of these out and it can essentially take over the game.
Nothing but threats come out to the board and you feel like you need to wrath every turn.
It's Bloodbraid Elf's world. We're just living in it. Hello again and welcome back to the Win Condition Podcast, your source for lore, news, and brews in the Magic the Gathering community. My name is Sean. I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Doing okay today.
Oh, sweet. Good deal. Well, it's a wet and rainy day out here in Fresno. How's it up in the Bay Area?
It's been pretty dry, actually. It's really weird. It was pouring this morning, and now it's dry and a little bit windy.
Lucky? Gosh. Oh.
Why don't you come on down? Oh, wait. I'm up from you.
You are. You know what else is up? Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com, and order your products singles or sealed. Masters 25 is out. You can pre-order your Dominaria product and use that promo code WIN condition in all caps to save yourself 10% off your purchase, which will help contribute to future show giveaways, not unlike the one that we are having next episode. Greg, we're going to be going over some details for that just a minute here. But first, we have a very interesting story to talk about. Who are we talking about today, Greg?
We are talking about the starting of the Order of the Kamalites.
Kamalites? Wait. Are you suggesting that we are going to be talking about the lore and story of the great Kamahl?
Yeah, we are going to talk about the great lore and story of the great Kamahl.
Well, let's head on over to Lore Corner.
So starting off, Kamahl, if you don't know, he started off in Ataria and Dominaria as a plane. Pardic Mountains, Aura Villages when he was born. Where he was born in 4275 to 4306 AR, which is after the brothers were born. He is a human. When we first start talking and seeing him, he is a human barbarian. He is the brother of Jessica and the pupil of Balthor, the Stout. Leaving his mountain home, he goes to the Cabal City to earn himself wealth and fame through the pit fighting. He used barbarian close combat skills and red magic to get his prized possession, an enormous two-handed sword that was rumored to have been crafted from the staff of Urza.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty powerful weapon.
It sure does. I mean, we already get a bunch of name drops here. Jessica was a card, became Corona. Balthor becomes defiled by the Cabal, and the Cabal themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, this guy is a true started from the bottom, and fight his way up, because the pits are just kind of the very bottom of the barrel, and if you earn yourself a name there, then that kind of says something.
Well, like Silvos or Jareth.
There you go. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and start off then with Kamahl's Odyssey. So, not unlike a lot of other characters we've covered, not a great deal is known about Kamahl's childhood, save that his grandfather was the legendary lavamancer Matok, and he kept a pet fire beast. And the creature burned off his hair, which never grew back, which is why Kamahl shows up as a bald character on his cards.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Upon arriving at Cabal City, Kamahl was initially sneered at by the wealthy locals because of his shabby appearance and barbarian origins. But through an impressive demonstration of his magical skills, he was able to gain sponsorship and entered the pits. He first saw the Mirari when he was shown the fighters' prizes and became obsessed with obtaining it. His talent soon became clear as he won a number of matches where he also befriended two other fighters, the Centaur Druid Seton and the Cabal Dementia Caster Chainer.
Wait,
Ooh,
wait. Seton? You mean the one that steals lands? Or wait, no. He makes druids tap for mana, right?
there you go. And of course, Chainer, we know he has a very historied reputation within Dominaria.
Very.
Well, Kamahl quickly became a crowd favorite and earned himself a small fortune through wagers. However, following an attack on Cabal City by a Krosan dragon, Kamahl's life took a dramatic turn. He aided in the city's defense, killing the enormous lizard. However, his victory was bittersweet, as he first found himself buried beneath the creature's carcass. Then, upon freeing himself, he found that his kill, and the rewards for it, had been accredited to the arrogant Aven warrior Lieutenant Kurtar. Oh, that pesky Kurtar. As a final insult, Kurtar's choice of prize was the Mirari, whose powerful magic called to the Barbarian and amplified his already intense resentment and jealousy. Kamahl thus began his journey to claim the artifact for himself, so his prize was taken for him by someone who manipulated the outcome of the events. That's just
Wow.
terrible. I mean, if that
That's
doesn't
just
light a
wrong.
fire in your stomach, I don't know what does. So, Kirtar, that jerk, returned to the Order's citadel while using the Mirari's powers to take control of it, struggling with the Order's ideals of destroying dangerous magical devices like the Mirari. Kamahl hotly pursued him and infiltrated the fortress, but was unable to steal the Mirari before Kirtar used the device to cast a devastating spell that crystallized much of the fortress, including Captain Piana and Kirtar himself.
Wow.
Whilst Kamahl barely escaped the spell with his life, the Mirari fell into the hands of its other pursuer, Ambassador Laquatus, who had become equally obsessed with the device, but had to give it to one of his minions. So Kamahl has just been incessantly pursuing the Mirari, and one after another it is taken just from under his grasp. The ambassador's minions took the artifact back to the Mare Empire. Kamahl's pursuit, however, ended at the port town of Breaker Bay, the nearest he could get to the Empire. When he was there, he entered the local pit fights. Yet again, he's quite the pit fighter, as you can tell from his card. But was unimpressed by the competition. See? He did, however, befriend a trio of youths who had been impressed by his fighting skills and asked him to train them. Kamahl did so and remained in Breaker Bay until Emperor Aboshan used the Mirari to cause a tidal wave that devastated the northern third of Oteria.
Darn those cephalids.
I know, right? Those cephalids and their pesky ways.
So, after this, the Mirari was taken back to the Cabal by Braids, who was sorting out artifacts for the Empire. Kamahl then returns to the Cabal City to once again compete for the Orb. While there, he meets up with his old friend Chainer, whose skills as a Dementia Summoner had increased dramatically. The two formed a successful partnership that broke the record for the most consecutive wins. But they parted company when the Cabal Patriarch insisted they throw their next match.
What?
Of course, the Patriarch is very corrupt. Kamahl refuses, as he wanted to win or lose games by his own skill rather than on the whims of match fixtures. However, Kamahl and Chainer remained friends. And when Chainer asked Kamahl to accompany him on his ritual Shakar, Kamahl agreed without question. The ritual began well, as Kamahl and Chainer tracked and caught new creatures for Chainer to summon in battle. However, the pair were ambushed by a druid and several wild animals, intent on stopping their poaching. Of course, Kamahl and Chainer won the fight, but afterwards, Kamahl felt a lot of guilt. The random slaughter of animals just to feed the pits was exactly what Kamahl's other friend, Seton, had been trying to stop. Thankfully, Chainer felt that the ritual was now complete, so Kamahl was not forced to abandon him in the forest. They once again returned to the Cabal City and found those under attack by the Order. Qatar, such a pest. So, Chainer and Kamahl enter the battle, and Kamahl is badly injured, By an order Justicar, Kamahl regains conscious and finds himself in a Cabal hospital with snake skin grafted over his wounds. Skin that Chainer had created from using the Mirari. Kamahl was horrified as such a procedure went against his barbarian principles. In order to cleanse himself of the additions, Kamahl burnt off his skin and left the hospital,
What?
pulling up in a cheap hostel to heal naturally. Wow.
Yeah.
Ultimately, however, Kamahl was forced to confront his friend when the curse of the Mirari drove Chainer into madness, causing him to summon a vast horde of dementia horrors. Kamahl was unwilling to kill Chainer, however, and instead tried to talk him out of his insanity before it was too late.
Talk him out of his insanity? Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Tragically, Kamahl was unsuccessful as the power of the Mirari overcame the dementia summoner and warped his body into a hideous mass of dementia beasts. As Chainer died, he gave the Mirari to Kamahl, who then took the Mirari and attached it to the pommel of his sword with the intention of keeping the dangerous artifact in safe hands.
Jeez. I mean, as we've learned from other stories that we've told, the Mirari ends up becoming quite the powerful essence, through turning into Memnarch and whatnot. But my gosh, this thing is.
But I think one of the definite things that's interesting about the Mirari is that from its inception it has always been tainted by Phyrexian oil.
Right, and it is so sought after by so many different people, and none of whom really see its true corrupt intentions until obviously much later on in the timeline of the multiverse. But in the meantime,
Right.
it's like, the bee's knees. Everyone wants some Mirari. So,
Yeah, they do.
yeah. So, let us continue with Kamahl and the Mirari here. Kamahl returned to his old home in the Partick Mountains, where he was reunited with Jeska and Balthor. Initially, he was content simply to return home covered in glory, but inevitably, the Mirari dominated his mind. Oh boy. He became increasingly aggressive and unpredictable, even for a barbarian, and attempted to take control of all the tribes under his dictatorship. Jeska and Balthor tried to reason with Kamahl, but were forced to oppose him as the barbarians divided into factions and readied for war. I mean, talk about trying to talk someone out of their insanity. This Mirari seems to be so powerful that once you become corrupted by it, you really cannot see the light of day. Kamahl's supporters and his opposition met in dramatic battle, which ended with Kamahl victoriously impaling Jeska with his Mirari sword, leaving her barely alive, but with an incurable burning chest wound that gradually ate away at her. Shocked into rational thought by this, Kamahl recognized the dark influence the Mirari was having upon him finally, and resolved to dispose of it for good. Kamahl felt a calling from the Croson forest and thus decided to travel there to hopefully both heal Jeska and get rid of the Mirari. He was accompanied by a concerned Balthor and also pursued by his old rival, Laquatus.
Oh no.
So something finally takes Kamahl's head and says, "Look, dude, you're messing up. This thing's messing with you. You gotta do this. This is what's right." And Kamahl's like,
Yep.
okay. So
moving on after his rival Laquatus is pursuing him, we go to the redemption in Crosa. When Kamahl and Balthor arrived at the edge of the Crozian forest, they were attacked, of course, by Laquatus and a shaky alliance of Cabalists, Order troops, both of whom blamed Kamahl for the destruction of their bases. Against such opposition, Balthor chose to sacrifice himself in order to let Kamahl flee with Jeska. Kamahl was not left alone, though, as another old friend appeared, the druid Seton, centaur druid to be exact, who guided Kamahl into the heart of the forest where he left his sister in Seton's care, as he journeyed deeper into the forest to purge himself of the Mirari's influence. There he met with the ancient Nantuko Thriss, who gave an understanding of the druidic way of life, as well as showing him the devastation the Mirari had caused. Kamahl spent much time contemplating what he had learned and gradually renounced his old ways. He gave up being a barbarian. I don't. So wishy-washy. His meditations were interrupted, of course, by Laquatus, who had come to finally claim the Mirari for himself. Their showdown was further complicated by the reappearance of Volthor, who had been zombified by braids and sent to take
Ooh.
revenge on the merfolk responsible for his death. Unfortunately for Balthor, Laquatus was able to take mental control over him and instead force the undead dwarf to battle his former pupil. Balthor begged Kamahl to end his torment, and so Kamahl was forced to strike down his old mentor. Filled with rage, Kamahl then turns to Laquatus, the cause of much of the barbarian's misery, and struck him down with the Mirari sword, leaving the blade embedded in the ground. With that act, Kamahl forsook the Mirari and his violent past, becoming devoted to a druidic life in tune with nature. He had hoped that the Mirari would be out of harm's way in the forest, and that he would be able to use his newfound knowledge to heal his sister and to redeem himself. He was very wrong. While he fought Laquatus, Jessica was kidnapped by braids and taken to the Cabal Patriarch, who tried to kill her, but instead turned her into Phage, the Untouchable. What? When Kamahl came to Epheto to take her back, he discovered to his horror what his sister had become. He agreed to fight her in a pit fight, hoping to find a way to bring her back to normal. But the fight was interrupted by Acroma, who came to avenge Nevia's death. The two siblings joined forces and managed to defeat her.
So,
Afterwards,
wait a minute.
what?
Acroma came and Kamahl teamed up with Phage to defeat Acroma?
Yep.
Oh my god. Okay. All right, that's crazy. Go ahead.
That was black and green versus white.
Yeah, right? And who knew that Kamahl's sister turned out to be Phage the Untouchable?
Oh, there's more.
Oh, man. All right, go ahead.
Afterwards, the Cabal and the Crocian Forest made an alliance to take on Ixidor, which Kamahl led into battle. The symbol of her alliance was the Soul Reaper, an axe made from the Patriarch's old axe and the broken halves of Kamahl's druid staff. In the battle, he was forced to fight his worst fear, which was his old Mirari-possessed persona, which he managed to defeat.
He fights himself. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nuts.
During this fight, he became convinced that turning Phage back to Jessica would kill her, so he left her and went back to Crosa.
Now, do you think that has anything to do with the fact that if you were to play Phage any other way besides paying her mana cost from your hand, that you would lose the game?
I actually think that's just the Cabal and their way of how they turned her.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, after leaving Jessica, Kamahl, aware of what he must do in the foreseeable future, returned to Crosa and planted himself in a deep meditation near Crosa's center point. Very non-barbaric. There, he stayed for a year until Stonebrow came to fetch him. At first, Kamahl seemed dead, having gone for an entire year without drinking or eating. What?
Wow.
Stonebrow, in his despair, forced Soul Reaper into Kamahl's hands. Green energy flowed from Soul Reaper to Kamahl, who revitalized, now mentally prepared for his task. He has been recharged. Kamahl was finally prepared to kill Phage. Riding upon Stonebrow with a small army of elves, centaurs, and Nantuko, Kamahl arrived at Sanctum. Entering the great city, they headed straight to the center of the battle, where Phage and Acroma were engaged in a fight to the death. Kamahl approached them and swung the Soul Reaper. The axe claimed Phage's and Acroma's lives, as well as an unexpected third life, Zagorka's. The three women's souls and bodies flew upward in a vortex, then combined in an explosion. From the center of that explosion, a radiant being unlike any other was born, Corona, the false god. Flung out of Sanctum and into the desert sands by the explosion that birthed Corona, Kamahl regained consciousness. Like most of Oteria, he felt a strong desire to find and grovel before Corona. Before he could chase her, however, Corona came to Kamahl. Feeling unworthy, Kamahl knelt in worship before Corona, who instead asked him to sit up straight, and then found out what the rest of Oteria intended to do. As the horde of Otarians seeking Corona charged closer, Corona flew up and fled. Kamahl, like the rest, followed to where she descended. Corona decided to mete out justice, killing a couple of nearby people. She then ascended again and flew away. All the while, Kamahl's perspective solidified from watching Corona kill those creatures. This new resolve allowed Kamahl to unite with the reborn Numena and destroy Corona. Ooh, I mean, talk about, he sees his sister, he sees these others that he's fighting with in the pit, they ascend into this great being, Corona, and Kamahl is just a fighter. From pit fighting to killing these great beings, he is quite a powerful character within Dominaria's history.
He really is. He's one of my favorite characters because there's so much that happens with him.
As I've seen from your commander decks that you like to build.
Shh. So, after destroying Corona and freeing his sister, Kamahl dies.
Ugh.
I mean, it's sad. He lived on as a hero renowned throughout Dominaria, remembered by both the common people and his sister Jessica. The Kamahlite druids, including Zid, remained in Crosa as the world's magic and life faltered, and they were among those responsible for restoring the world to its former splendor following the resolution of the crisis. At some point in the future, a man named Baru will once again take up Kamahl's title of the Fist of Crosa. Much later, Jessica sacrifices herself to close the rift in Ataria's skies, allowing the Great Mending to begin. Immediately after, her dead brother Kamahl welcomed his long-separated sister in a white void. With the two siblings finally reunited, she happily welcomed oblivion.
Well, I guess that's kind of a happy ending to the story.
I mean, it's one of the happiest endings you can get in the Magic multiverse.
Right. I mean, with all the death and disappointment and, just sadness, it's good to see some good characters reunited after death. So that's always good. So
it's more beneficial than, being turned into, I don't know, a soul that had to deal with other stuff.
yeah, no, that's true. That is true. All right. Well,
Poor Balthor.
poor Balfour. So why don't we let you guys know about Kamahl and his iterations here. So first off, we have Kamahl, Pit Fighter. For 4 red, he is a 6/1 legendary human barbarian with haste that says tap, Kamahl Pit Fighter deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So that's pretty savage. I mean, he can lightning bolt pretty much anything. And you see his gigantic 2-handed sword here in his art. But that's not necessarily the final iteration of Kamahl that we see. What's the other kind of Kamahl we have?
As you know, after that, he becomes the druid of Crosa, and he becomes Kamahl, Fist of Crosa, which is a 4 generic green legendary creature human druid. He is a 4/3, and he has tap 1 green, target land becomes a 1/1 creature until end of turn. It's still a land. And then 2 generic green, so 5 creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn.
Ooh.
If any of you guys have seen my EDH deck, I have a Fist of Crosa mono green EDH deck that focuses around just beating you up. I mean, nothing but threats come out to the board, and you feel like you need to wrath every turn.
I mean,
That's kind of the point.
if you have someone like Azuri, like an elf, commander, then obviously you're going to be playing elves, and that honestly is more narrow than what Kamahl can do. I mean, considering he can turn your lands into creatures and just overruns as his ability, he's definitely a very powerful green commander.
Very, very, very.
Yeah.
So, and then he's got a few other cards here, one of which we are getting here soon.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of why we talked about him. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean.
So
Go ahead.
his associated cards, we have Kamahl's Sledge out of Torment, which is 5 generic red. sorcery. So that's a 7-drop sorcery to deal 4 damage to our creature. But it has threshold. So if there are 7 more cards in your graveyard, it deals 4 damage to that creature and then 4 damage to that creature's controller.
Wow.
Ugh.
Again, goes to show you the power creep we've experienced over the course of the years. Because, of course, nowadays we have a card called Searing Blaze, which, I mean, this card costs 7 mana, and Searing Blaze costs you 2. And if you've had a land enter the battlefield,
if you play a land.
yeah, it deals 3 damage to the creature and the player. I mean, it is very interesting to see where we've come in terms of the history of Magic and the power level. But yeah, we talked about Kamahl's legendary sorcery, sort of the legendary Gen Wave out of Dominaria, our last episode. So yeah, we just wanted to bring to light this character and a little bit of his history, so you can kind of understand how he fits into the whole storyline and the history of Dominaria. I mean, you've got the Mirari, you've got Corona, you've got Balfour, you've got a whole bunch of different. You got Phage. I mean, this guy definitely has played a huge part in the history of Dominaria. So.
Well, but before we jump too far, there's a really cheap sorcery. It's a 4-drop. Kamahl Summons. Have you read this card?
I have not. What does it do?
So it says each player may reveal any number of creature cards from his or her hand. So it works for everybody. Then each player puts a 2/2 green bear creature token into play for each card he or she revealed this way. That's just cool.
If only we had some token doublers in green. Wait.
I mean, I don't know.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, there you have Kamahl and his story. So, we're gonna go ahead and what's that?
It's next week, right?
Oh, well, next week we actually are going to be able to get the story for Dominaria. It's been on hiatus, a little brief wait for an extra week. What with the leaks and whatnot, there's been a lot of complications with Dominaria coming to the public, but we are going to be getting it soon enough, and we will be bringing to you the story of Dominaria starting next week. So,
well, that's exciting.
That's very exciting. But anyway, we have a couple bit things to cover in our news and announcements segment. So let's head on over to As Foretold. Yeah, let's start off with those of you who have been following MTG Arena. There's been a certain thing that's been preventing streamers from streaming. Greg, do you wanna kind of enlighten us on what's going on with this?
Well, for the few select that have been allowed to play in the arena beta, they had to sign an NDA saying that they were not allowed to show anybody but themselves the game. So that meant that they could not stream the game.
Couldn't stream, couldn't make YouTube videos, couldn't post on blogs, none of that stuff.
Nothing. So, this week, we got new information that I'm excited about. The NDA is lifting, which means we're going to be able to get round-the-clock play on things like Twitch and YouTube and start really getting to see what Arena is all about starting on March 22nd.
Yay! Oh my God! Honestly, I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
I know. I'm pretty excited myself. So, hey, all sorts of beneficial things to get out there and just play.
Yes. In fact, it was funny. I went on to Twitch one day and I was looking up Magic channels, and I saw someone playing Arena. And I jumped on. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And in the chat, sure enough, there was somebody there saying, hey, buddy, you can't stream this. And the guy was like, wait, what? I think he might have even been in a foreign country or something. But yeah, it's very real. If you want to be a part of Wizards and their processes, you must adhere to these NDAs and other procedures. So he quit, playing very, very abruptly. But he was actually, I don't know if he was unaware or what, but yeah, they're very serious about this stuff. So we will finally get to see Arena being streamed by people other than the Magic headquarters,
Wizards.
who do their streams on Wednesdays, starting on the 22nd. So that's very, very exciting.
Woot. I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. So anyway, moving right along, there were a couple of tournaments that, one main specifically, the SCG Open in Dallas, which also spawned a modern classic as well as a standard classic. And then we also have the MTGO Competitive Standard League reports of this last week. And I got to say, I am very excited about Standard. There's quite the variation that is present right now. We're going to jump on over to the Brewmaster's Lair. Why don't we go ahead and actually start by talking about the main event, the SCG Open Modern in Dallas here, that was won by a red-green Ponza deck. Not only is this any red-green Ponza deck, but this deck takes advantage of one of the recent unbannings. It is running for Bloodbraid Elves.
Ooh, I like that card. That's a good card.
It is a pretty darn good card. I mean, Bloodbraid Elf can cascade into Blood Moon, can cascade into Stone Rain, can cascade into Molten Rain, can cascade into Utopia Sprawl, Lightning Bolt, a whole bunch of other wonderful cards that make this Ponza deck go. So while it is running these targeted land destruction spells, for those of you who might not be familiar with the Ponza deck, this deck in particular, you're running 4 Arbor Elves, so some good ramp there. 2 Birds of Paradise, more ramp. Corsair Crewfix, just 1. 3 Inferno Titan as a finisher. 2 Pia and Kira Nalar, which is just a great utility card. 4 Tireless Tracker. This card has been so prevalent in Modern. It's just such a great value card at 3 mana, 2 and a green, for a 3/2 that whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you investigate, you create a clue that you can tap to and sacrifice it to draw a card. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. I mean, this card by itself is so strong. You can have one of these out, and it can essentially take over the game. But yeah, no, this deck is serious. Ponza has been seeing a resurgence in the last 6 months or so, but I love the fact that it is actually running the 4 Bloodbraid Elves as well. That seems like it would just make this deck that much stronger.
It does. You're right.
Yeah.
It actually looks like there was a second one down around 20th place.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so not the only Ponza deck we've seen.
In the top 32, at least.
Right. And we do have repeats at 2nd and 3rd with Blue-Red Gift Storm. That's been pretty straightforward as of late. I mean, there's not been too many new innovations with this deck. Gifts and Given, Baral, Goblin Electromancer. Not really seeing too much else going on here. So why don't we go ahead and move on? We then have in 4th place, Infect. Wow, I haven't actually seen an Infect deck placed pretty highly.
That's got a really interesting card in the sideboard.
In this
everything else is pretty much the same, but in the sideboard, it is running a 1 of Shaper's Sanctuary.
Oh.
Which, if you guys don't know what that card is, it is a 1 green enchantment that says whenever a creature you control is targeted by a spell, draw a card.
And it looks like in that sideboard again, it's got those 2 Spellskites. I mean, Shaper's Sanctuary and Spellskite seems like a pretty awesome combo when you're running a deck that really values its, couple of creatures that it has to stick and keep on the board.
Yeah.
So.
And then followed up by Infect, you got that Jund deck, which is running those Bloodbraid Elves, Liliana Last Hope, 4 Veils. Nothing other big there. Followed up by our first deck running Jace's Blue-White Control.
There he is. Finally. I mean, everyone thought that Jace was going to be this overpowered Planeswalker, but it turns out he's very just, not normal, but he's powerful. He's powerful enough to not want everyone to just get him banned immediately again.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, in both of these decks, the blue-white control and then farther down the Jeskai control deck, it's only running 2.
Yeah. Not the 4
They're
of
not
that
running
people
a
might.
bunch.
Yeah. No, a lot of people would think that you'd need 4 Jace the Mind Sculptors to have a Jace deck. Well, this isn't necessarily a Jace deck. It's just an already powerful blue-white control deck that Jace seems to do wonderful things for. That's definitely very good. I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary here. You got 1 Gideon in the Trials, 1 Gideon Jura as your other planeswalkers.
Oh man. Do you see that tribal zoo deck?
Tribal Zoo?
It is essentially 5-color 5-color zoo plus tribal flames.
Tribal Flame, of course, being a 1 and a red sorcery that says Tribal Flames deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. And I guess in a 5-color deck for 2 mana, that's pretty good value.
It is pretty good value, yeah.
Man.
So that looks like it's quite a bit of fun. I mean, Narnum Renegade.
Yeah.
What?
And guess what? You're running those 4 Bloodbraid Elves. I mean, why not?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think in comparison between Jace and Bloodbraid, Bloodbraid is definitely taking the cake for most used, most recent unbanned card.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, just to round out the top 8, after that white-blue control deck, you've got black-green Tron and Eldrazi Tron, most of which are pretty familiar. We've seen a lot of those decks before. So let's just continue on in the modern respect to the modern classic here, in which it was won by a dredge deck. Wow.
What?
So generally
The
speaking,
Manaless Dredge.
yeah, generally speaking, these classics are made up of people who might not have placed too well in day 1 of the open tournament, and so they have just kind of they join up with the classic and try to do well for themselves. We didn't see a single dredge deck in that top, what was it, 32 list?
32.
Yeah. And here it is winning. So looks like maybe some of these decks forgot to pack their graveyard hate. But, of course, in second place here, you got a Jund deck. I mean, why not? Everyone plays Jund. You've got your
Red
blue.
Gift Storm.
Yep, just like you should. A 4-color burn deck?
No, it's Naya Burn. Must be a land. No.
Oh.
Bloodstained Mire.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that doesn't count. Never mind. Okay. So, basically, Naya Burn.
Yeah.
Blue-red
Prison.
Blue-red Prison. Again, no Jace the Mind Sculptor. But
This mono green Tron deck looks like fun though.
yeah, Mono Green Tron has been popping up a lot too. You've got Jeskai Control rounding out the top 8. And guess what? No Jace. Wow.
Yeah, there's not very many. I think these decks, like you said, are the ones where they didn't do very well, so they probably didn't have the money to buy a Jace.
Yep. So, and then just outside the top 8 and ninth, you got a black-red Hollow-In deck. Still kind of the new hotness that is popping up in good finishes all over the modern scene. And oh my gosh, what deck is that? Grixis Death's Shadow? What's that? Is that even a deck?
I mean, there's some people playing it.
I guess. Man, talk about falling out of favor. Looks like with the introduction of Bloodbraid Elf and Jace, people got a lot better things to be doing than playing a Grixis Death Shadow deck. It's not even running Jace. I mean, I guess why would you? It's a 4-drop, and Grixis Death Shadow is all about running those cheap value spells. All right, well then why don't we jump ship from Modern and head over to Standard? We have the SCG Classic Standard, where oh boy, look at this. Here we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mono red aggro decks.
Yeah, red's still kind of good. They didn't get rid of Bomat Courier, you ask me.
Yeah, Bomat Courier. I mean, you got Hazaret and Chandra still making up a huge part of that. Hello, Challenger decks. Here we come.
I know, right?
Right, but it was won by a Grixis Energy deck. And again, Glint Sleeve Siphoner just being an absolute all-star of the format. Um, I've loved this card for so long. I think it's always just been super powerful. Definitely comparable to Dark Confidant, especially in Standard. Um, it's looking pretty strong. But then you've got mono red, mono red, mono red, blue black control, another Grixis energy, and mono black aggro. Okay.
I want to say that's that semi-energy deck.
Yeah, I mean, ooh,
Yeah,
you'd
yeah.
you'd like this. You got 3 Bone Pickers in the main board. That's a pretty
It's
good
not
card.
horrible. That's a pretty good card. Rune Raiders, a pair of those. Vicious Conquistador, Night Market Lookout. There's some really good stuff here.
Yeah.
Battle at the Bridge in the sideboard.
Ooh, Battle of the Bridge is such a good card that I felt has flown under the radar for so long, but especially in, a very heavy aggro meta, the ability to gain life, and it gives -X, -X, so you can take care of those Hazarets. Seems like a very, very strong card, a great include. Um, Possibly even main deckable, I would say, in the right deck, but maybe we haven't found that right deck yet. And then we get all the way down outside of top 8 before we start seeing um, blue-red aggro, Naya monsters, green-red aggro, um, and then there's a Mardu Vehicles deck way down in, I think that's like 12th place or something. I don't know.
That's about right.
Yeah, but very, very interesting. Not too much diversity in the top 8. I mean, you definitely see the strength of mono red, but if we take a look here in the standard Magic decks from MTGO, um, in leagues from the 12th through the 18th, we see a wide array of decks that you have potential to build.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got obviously mono red aggro at the top, and then you've got blue black mid range, white blue auras, white blue approach, blue green merfolk, teamer energy, Grixis control, black red energy, blue green pummeler, white blue Godpharaoh's gift, Mardu vehicles, white black tokens. There's so much variety out here, and I think that just since mono red aggro has been so prevalent, people are kind of sticking to it.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of hype with these new sets with Masters 25 and the Dominaria leaks that have kind of detracted from the attention people could spend to brewing new and powerful decks. But I think it's very obvious to a lot of people that there is still a lot of variety within the standard metagame, and any given day, any deck could really take down a tournament. So,
True.
yeah.
True. And then it's like, hey, breakout, new deck.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to play it because, oh, that's cool. I didn't think about that.
Exactly.
So after that, take a move over to this Team Trios Constructed. We found this on MTG Top 8. Do you want to
Yes.
talk about Legacy first? Standard? Modern?
There's
I
so
don't know.
many.
They played in everything. I mean, Standard is a pretty interesting one, if I remember correctly, because Grixis Energy is at the top. Demir midrange, not a black-blue control, a midrange deck. RDW, blue-black control, Godpharaoh's gift, Gogari Constrictor, Grixis Energy, and then blue-black control. This is pretty open, but there is definitely a color not represented here. That's
Ooh.
really green.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's no green. There's barely any white. So barely any green. I should say that. Golgari Constrictor is a green black, but there's still not a lot of those colors.
Yes, that is true.
It's kind of interesting to just see this and how it all plays differently. But it's most of the same of what we've been seeing. Nothing too different.
Right. And of course, when we go into the modern side of GP Madrid, you've got, oh wow, here it is, Death's Shadow in first place in that first place team. So it seems like it still has quite a high percentage over the metagame. So good reason to keep on playing Death's Shadow.
How about that Valakut in second place?
Yeah, well, I mean, Valakut's just strong,
It
and
really is. You're right.
it is a great, great powerful deck that did gain an advantage through Bloodbraid Elf seeing an unban. I mean, 4
Yeah.
of Bloodbraid Elf. Any deck that really runs red-green, you can shove those 4 Bloodbraid Elves in there to get that value. So,
Well, we see that it's doing well with 3 decks here. So
yep. Yep. In third,
Do you know what I don't see here?
what's that?
I don't see any white or blue.
No, not at all. I mean, just to round out this top eight, after that Valakut, third and fourth, Jund, fifth Eldrazi Aggro, sixth Hollow One, seventh Jund, eighth Urzatron. That's four. Is that four or three or four different modern events where we only have seen two copies of Jace the Mind Sculptor in the top eight? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just, time frame. Nobody's really had the chance to really dive into brewing with Jace, or maybe he's really just not that powerful in the modern format.
I
So,
really don't know which one it is, but we do know that this card is kind of good.
right. And I think Jace really functions well in in more of a control shell, obviously. I mean, he draws you a lot of cards. Fate Sealing, once you get that control advantage with the control deck, is very powerful. And we don't really see too many control decks, winning a lot of these modern events. I mean, Grixis Control is probably one of the more prevalent decks. Um, and that white blue control deck was really the only white blue control deck we saw in any of these top eights. So, yeah, I mean, Jace may come into his own eventually, but as of right now, it's Bloodbraid Elf's world. We're just living in it.
Pretty much. Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
And then we make our way to the Legacy decks.
Yeah.
We start off with Eldrazi Aggro, which is just all too good. A 4-color control deck running a 2 of Jace and pretty much anything else you can think of that is normally in control. Dragon Stompy is your generic red deck wins. Bug Threshold, it's just the same. Dark Depths, though, taking in 6th place is kind of cool.
True.
That's actually kind of fun. Stoneblade and then Blue-Red Delver. No real big changes in Legacy. It's still an open format. It's still expensive to get into.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm really curious. Why call it Bug Threshold?
blue, black, green.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I really don't see any benefits to. Oh, Threshold is if you have
7 or more cards in your graveyard.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So cards like Tombstalker uses Delve, Deathrite Shaman, you get that value from loading up your graveyard. Okay.
Yep.
All
and
right.
Passiger to fill it up.
Tarmogoyf. Okay. I'm sorry. I confused Threshold with Hellbent.
Oh.
Shows you how much I know about that.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
I think with that kind of rounds us up for our brews and what we were talking about here.
right. Now, one other thing I kind of wanted to touch on with the release of Masters 25, we have quite a few cards in this set that can be that you can use in combination with each other to make some pretty fun decks. I mean, we're going to branch from the competitive aspect here to just talk briefly about possible combos you can use here with some of these cards.
I've got my favorite already.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to kind of kick things off by saying a lot of people have been saying Flash Hulk, using the card Flash and Protean Hulk in combination to go and grab 6 CMC worth of creatures to play. And there's a couple different combinations you can use to win the game off of that. My own personal history with this was as soon as I found out about this combo, I'm like, I have got to experiment with this. But I kind of went in a weird direction. I tried to figure out all the 0-drop creatures that I could find, that being the 3 variants of kobolds from Legends. Of course, you've got your Ornithopters, you've got your Memnites, and just, slapping all of those onto the battlefield. And then you grab yourself 1, maybe 2 Signal Pests. And then you need a haste enabler, and then you can just swing in with all of them and pretty much win on turn 2 or even turn 1 if you're running like Lotus Petal and stuff like that. But if you have Urabrask and you fetch 1 Signal Pest, that's doable. You could also use, what card was that, Greg, that you suggested?
The Flamekin Zealot or
Flamekin
Ogre Battle
Zealot.
Driver?
That's right. That's only a 4-drop, so you could actually grab yourself 2 Signal Pests with that and swing in. But I definitely ran that deck, pulled that off once or twice, in just a super casual format. But it's really fun, and a lot of people who are opening this Masters 25, feel free, experiment, start deck building, do some fun things other than just look up the EV of your box or the total value. There's a lot of good stuff in here. But Greg, you said you had a combo that you liked using as well.
I think this is possibly one of the strongest ways to play if you like blue and or green and or any color, honestly. So one of the things that I see a lot of cards that do is give creatures abilities to tap and do stuff.
Right.
And in this set, they've put in 2 cards that I think break this. One of those being Horseshoe Crab, which is a 1/3 for 3 that has pay 1 blue and untap. Not very useful when you're just having it out, but you pair that with something like Presence of Gond, which is tap, put out a 1/1 Elf Warrior, or Heavy Arvalest, is really strong. And then the other card is Freed from Reality, which is an enchant creature
Freed from the
that
Real?
allows you to freed from the real. Thank you. Which is an enchant creature that allows you to pay 1 blue to either tap or untap enchanted creature. And both of these cards allow you to play so many different things. I was watching MTG Goldfish, and they were playing with that. He drafted it out of just kind of drafting it, but there's a lot of synergy. I mean, there's cards like Echoing Courage, which if you're doing the green-blue Presence of Gone, you get to have all creatures that share a name get +2/+2. So there's some really cool ways to play that are a lot more powerful than only going with rares like Flash Hulk.
Right. No, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Freed from the Real really kind of opens up a lot of different combos with cards that involve tapping. I mean, just for example, you've got Jalira, Master Polymorphist, who says 2 and a blue, tap, sacrifice another creature, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card. Put that card in the battlefield. And the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I mean, if you slap Freed from the Real on her, and you can get multiple activations of her, and you have other cards like Ravenous Chupacabra or other cards that have certain enter the battlefield effects, you could have a lot of fun activating this polymorph effect multiple times. Also, if you got like an Elvish
What about
Pipe.
like
What's
Master of the Wild Hunt?
Master of the Wild Hunt too, yeah. I mean, Elvish Piper as well, getting, multiple activations of putting creatures from your hand on the battlefield. That seems pretty strong.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And
you
then
could stack Magus of the Wheel.
there you go. Yeah. 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 Also, going back to the whole Flash concept, we did get Unearth as a common in this set as well. So,
True.
if you get that good enter the battlefield effect, feel free to flash it in, and then if it dies, like let's say Imperial Recruiter. Okay, sorry, it's a mythic, but still, you play Imperial Recruiter with flash. You go get your card, put it in in your hand, and then Imperial Recruiter goes to the graveyard. Then you unearth it, and you get an extra activation out of it. That seems pretty good.
That is pretty good. Niv Mizzet the Fire Mind's really good with Freed from the Real.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely.
Anyhow, I think we need to wrap ourselves up and tell these fine folks about how they can win cards from that Forged in Stone deck.
Yes, absolutely. Well, for those of you who are interested in winning free Magic cards, the way you can enter our contest is you can send us an email at thewinconditionpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what your favorite or craziest win condition is in any format of any game of Magic you've ever played. And we would gladly review it. We will read it on our 50th episode cast, and we will ship you some prizes. These prizes being cards from the Forged in Stone Commander pre-constructed deck featuring Nahiri the Lithomancer, which is available. I mean, you can get the Nahiri the Lithomancer Planeswalker card. There is the oversized foil. Feel free to look up the deck list. And I think what we're going to do is have our enterers or entries submit a list of cards that they're interested in so that we can allocate as many cards to these people as we can. You know, we definitely want to give you guys what you want. So send us your stories, send us your win conditions. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for all the entries that we've had so far. And we've got plenty of cards to give away. So go ahead and send your win conditions to thewinconditionpodcast@gmail.com, and we will, definitely do what we can to help you guys out.
We will. That's for sure.
Yep. So
where can they find you?
Well, you can find me at MTG_Sean on Twitter.
And you can find me at NoobSlasher2003 on Twitter.
And of course, the podcast is at The Win Condition on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram at The Win Condition MTG. Check out our YouTube channel. I came into a box of Masters 25, and I will be putting a box opening video together along with card values and total box values, so that seemed pretty interesting. And you're just going to have to watch to find out what I pulled from that box. So anyway, all that being said, you can head on over to Flipside Gaming at flipsidegaming.com and order yourself a single sealed product, and be sure to use that promo code WINCONDITION in all caps and save yourself 10% off your purchase. And the proceeds will help go to fund future show giveaways because we're all about giving back to our listeners. But anyway, all that being said, Greg, thanks again.
Always a pleasure.
And we will talk to y'all next week.